She thought she had it all, the love, the future, but everything shattered when he walked away, leaving her in the cold. What he didn't know was she wasn't broken. She was about to rise higher than ever before. This is where our story begins. Ayana Juma, once left behind by the man she loved, now stands on the brink of everything she never expected: revenge, redemption, and love. But the twist, what happens next will change everything, as the very person who betrayed her could hold the key to her future. You won't believe the shocking turn of events that await, but don't worry, we won't give it all away yet. Keep watching to find out what happens next. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next chapters in this dramatic tale of love, betrayal, and triumph. And hey, while you're here, tell us where you're watching from. You won't want to miss what happens next. Trust me, it gets wild. Stay tuned for the full story. Ayana sat in her apartment, the familiar hum of the city outside her window barely noticeable as her mind churned in turmoil. Ethan's words echoed in her ears, louder than the silence of the empty room. "I love you, Ayana, but this just isn't going to work. My family, they'll never accept us. I can't do this to them." He had said it like it was something trivial, like it was her fault. She could still see the way he'd turned away from her, the way his shoulders slumped as he climbed into his car and drove off, leaving her standing on the sidewalk, helpless. It was that moment, the precise second he had driven away, that Ayana knew her life had just shattered into pieces. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even sad. There was only numbness. The pain came later. In the weeks that followed, every inch of her life was defined by the absence of the love she thought was hers. But more than that, it was the sharp sting of rejection that left her questioning everything. Was she not good enough? Was her love not enough? Her mind could barely wrap around it. The phone was still in her hand. She had stared at it for hours, willing herself not to call him back, but the silence was deafening. She scrolled through their old text messages, each word a reminder of how close she had come to building a future with him. But then, it all felt so distant. Ethan was never coming back. His family had won, and that's when she made the decision. "I'm done," she whispered to herself. She threw herself into work, pushing aside any trace of the woman who had loved so deeply and desperately. She became obsessed with her career. Hours turned into days, and days into weeks. The more time she spent perfecting her work, the less time she had to think about Ethan. Or so she thought. Her apartment was a mess of scattered papers and half-empty coffee cups. She hadn't gone home in days, only leaving the office to grab a quick bite to eat before returning to the grind. The promotion she had been waiting for was within reach, but the cost had been steep. She had become someone she didn't recognize. Yet somehow it felt like the only way to survive. Her friends texted her, begging her to get out, to take a break, but she ignored them. She didn't need a break. She needed something to fill the emptiness. It wasn't until one night, long after everyone else had left the office, that Ayana finally allowed herself to breathe. She had finished a report for her manager, and it was perfect. It had to be. It was her ticket to finally being taken seriously in the marketing world. But as she stared at the completed document, her thoughts drifted back to Ethan, his family, his cold rejection, the way he had chosen them over her, the way she had stood on the curb, her heart broken into 1,000 pieces, watching his taillights disappear into the night. Ayana's fingers gripped the edge of the desk as she stood up, staring out the window. The city was alive with light, but she felt invisible. "I'm not enough." She had told herself that over and over, until it became a truth she almost believed. But no, not anymore. Her phone buzzed, breaking the silence. It was a message from her friend Carla. "You're stronger than you think. Take this opportunity to show the world what you're made of." Her heart tightened in her chest. She remembered Carla's words the night she had first met Ethan. "You're not just some girl he gets to have, Ayana. You deserve someone who sees you for who you are." And right then, Ayana realized Carla was right. Ethan had never truly seen her. He had seen what his family wanted him to see, and the moment she didn't fit their mold, she became disposable. He wasn't the one who deserved her. She would prove it to herself. She wasn't just going to survive, she was going to thrive. The next morning, Ayana enrolled in an MBA program, signing up for every night class she could find. Her schedule filled up with meetings, late nights, and deadlines. The city buzzed outside her window, but she no longer felt lost in it. Each step, each success, was a small victory over the ghosts of her past. She was reclaiming the parts of herself Ethan had tried to break. At work, her new drive didn't go unnoticed. Her colleagues watched her closely as she started to dominate every project, pushing through with an intensity they hadn't seen before. It wasn't long before her manager called her in for a meeting. "Ayana, you've been working harder than anyone else," he said, eyes narrowing as he studied her. "I want you to take on a bigger role in the next campaign. This is your chance." She didn't hesitate. "I'm ready," she replied, voice steady. Inside, a fire was ignited. This was what she had been waiting for. Her success continued to build, and with each achievement, Ayana felt herself growing stronger. But there was something else too, something that had been nagging at her. She still hadn't moved on from Ethan. The anger was there, bubbling under the surface, and every time she reached a new milestone, she felt his shadow lingering over her. One evening, Ayana attended a business conference in Chicago, representing her company on a marketing panel. She was exhausted but determined to push through. The panel went well, and after her presentation, a man in his early 40s approached her. "You were brilliant," he said, his smile genuine. "I've been facing similar challenges in my company. We should talk sometime." He was Alexander Sterling, the CEO of a company she had heard of but never thought she'd meet. And yet, here he was, extending an invitation that would change her life forever. Over dinner that night, Alexander's respect for Ayana's intelligence and her dedication to her work became clear. For the first time since Ethan, Ayana found herself drawn to someone who didn't just see her potential, but embraced it. Alexander wasn't trying to fix her or tell her what she should be. He saw her for who she was, and that made all the difference. As their conversation turned into laughter, Ayana couldn't help but feel a strange sense of peace. She wasn't there to fill the void left by Ethan. She was there to build her own future. Ayana stood by the window, her fingers wrapped around the cool glass as she stared at the bustling city below. It had been a week since she met Alexander Sterling, and each time she thought about him, a strange flutter would stir inside her. The connection was undeniable, the chemistry undeniable. Yet a part of her hesitated. Could she trust it? Was it just another distraction, another attempt to fill the void left by Ethan's betrayal? She shook her head. No, this was different. Alexander respected her, saw her for what she was, not just her ambition, but her heart. He listened when she spoke about her dreams, not just her professional ones, but the ones that kept her up at night. But even as she pondered the possibilities, a voice echoed in the back of her mind, reminding her of what she had lost, of the pain she still carried. Ethan was a ghost she couldn't quite shake. The phone buzzed, interrupting her thoughts. It was Carla, her best friend. "You've been on cloud nine ever since you met Mr. Sterling, huh?" The message was lighthearted, but Ayana could feel the weight of the question underneath. Before she could respond, the phone rang. Carla's face appeared on the screen. "Hey, you! I miss your face. Everything good with Mr. CEO?" she teased, her voice laced with playful curiosity. Ayana smiled but didn't quite meet her eyes. "I'm just getting to know him better. We've talked a few times and, well, it's nice." "Different." "Different?" Carla raised an eyebrow. "Meaning what?" Ayana hesitated. "He doesn't see me as some project to fix. He respects my work, my vision." She paused. "I think it's the first time I've met someone who actually gets it." Carla's grin widened. "So are we talking about real chemistry here, or just another rebound from Mr. My Family Doesn't Approve?" The mention of Ethan's name made Ayana flinch. She bit her lip, trying to push the hurt aside. "It's not like that," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "I'm not looking for another distraction." Carla's tone softened. "I know, girl, but just remember, he's not your past, and you deserve someone who treats you like the prize you are. Don't settle." Ayana exhaled deeply. "I'm not settling. I need time." They said their goodbyes and Ayana set the phone down, her thoughts lingering on Carla's words. Time. She hadn't had time in years. Not for herself, not for anyone. And yet, with Alexander, everything felt different. There was a calmness in his presence, a steadiness that she hadn't realized she needed until now. The next evening, Ayana found herself at a networking event, standing at the edge of a crowded room. The energy buzzed with excitement, the kind of high-pressure atmosphere she thrived in. But tonight was different. She was waiting for Alexander. They had arranged to meet after the event, and then there he was, tall, confident, and unmistakably handsome. His gaze locked onto hers from across the room, and she couldn't help but smile. There was something magnetic about him, something that made her feel like the world had narrowed down to just the two of them in that moment. He walked toward her, and for a brief second, the noise of the crowd seemed to fade away. "Evening, Ayana," he said, his voice deep and warm. "Evening, Alexander." She couldn't help but smile. "I didn't think you'd make it." "I wouldn't miss it," he replied, his eyes twinkling with a hint of mischief. "Now that I've finally convinced you to let me steal you away for dinner, I'm not backing out." Her heart skipped a beat, but she masked her surprise with a laugh. "Steal me away? I was here for work, you know." "Of course," he grinned, stepping closer. "But I think work can wait for one night." The chemistry between them was undeniable, yet Ayana hesitated. She had been burned before, and she wasn't sure she was ready to trust again. But with Alexander, there was no rush, no expectations, just a connection that felt real. The night was perfect. They dined at a rooftop restaurant with a view of the city skyline, the conversation flowing effortlessly between them. He spoke about his company, about his goals, and Ayana found herself captivated by his passion. It was the first time in a long while that she had felt so seen, so understood. As the evening drew to a close, Alexander drove her home, the tension between them palpable. When they reached her apartment, he turned to face her, his expression serious now. "Ayana," he said softly, his gaze intense. "I know this might be fast, but I want you to know that I'm here for more than just a good time. I'm here because I believe in what we could have, and I'm not in a rush, but I want you to know that I'm serious about you." Ayana's breath caught in her throat. She had never heard those words before, not from anyone, not like this. I, I'm not sure I'm ready for that yet," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly, "but I'm willing to see where this goes." "Good," he smiled, his eyes softening, "because I think this could be something great." But as she stepped out of the car and walked into her apartment, Ayana couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. She thought about Ethan, how after everything that had happened he still lingered in her mind, how his family's rejection had shaped so much of her life. How could she shake the feeling that Alexander, with his smooth words and sharp charm, might be too good to be true? As Ayana stood in her apartment, staring out at the city lights once again, she wondered how much longer she could keep running from the past, and if Alexander was truly the man he seemed to be, or just another chapter in a story she couldn't escape. Ayana sat at her desk, the dim light from her computer screen casting long shadows across the room. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, her mind racing. She had worked tirelessly for months, pushing through exhaustion, navigating a constant stream of presentations, meetings, and deadlines. The promotion she'd fought for was finally within her grasp. She had given everything to get here. And yet, as she checked her inbox that evening, the email from her finance manager stopped her dead in her tracks. It was a routine update, or so she thought. But as her eyes scanned the figures on the screen, her stomach twisted. Numbers once so stable were now wildly off course. Missing funds, large discrepancies, and no clear explanation. She blinked, unable to process what she was seeing. This wasn't just a mistake. This was deliberate. Her breath caught in her throat. "No, this can't be happening." She leaned forward, eyes scanning the email again. There was no mistake. The missing money wasn't a small amount. It was significant. She could feel her pulse quickening, panic bubbling up. "Hey, Ayana!" Carla's voice broke through the silence of the room, startling her. "You around for dinner tonight? You need a break, girl. You've been burning the midnight oil lately." Ayana didn't respond. Instead, she opened another folder, then another, desperately trying to piece together what had gone wrong. The figures didn't add up. This wasn't just an error from an overworked accounting team. This was fraud. Someone had been siphoning money from their department. Who could do this? Her heart pounded in her chest. She immediately thought of Ethan. He had always been cautious, calculating in his decisions. But this felt different. No, this wasn't about Ethan. This was about someone much closer. She glanced at the email again, the name at the top catching her eye. David Henderson, her ex-boyfriend's father, the very man who had driven her away from his son. Could it be possible? Could someone in her past be behind this? The thought felt like a punch to the gut. The phone rang. She didn't answer. She couldn't breathe, let alone speak. She jumped when it buzzed again. It was Alexander. Ayana, we need to talk, his message read. Something is happening with your company, your financials. I have people looking into it. Call me when you can. The dread in her stomach intensified. She grabbed her phone and immediately dialed him. Alexander, she said, her voice tight. What's going on? Ayana, he replied, his voice calm but urgent. I need you to listen closely. We're still trying to get a full picture, but there are some strange financial dealings. We found inconsistencies and it looks like someone is covering their tracks. It's serious. Her hands trembled as she clutched the phone. Do you know who it is? Is it someone in the department? I'm not sure yet, he said, but we'll get to the bottom of it. I need you to stay calm. This might involve people we both know. People we both know. Ayana's heart dropped. She thought about the figures in the email again. It couldn't be. Could it? I'll meet you first thing tomorrow, she said, her voice low, determined. I'll do whatever I need to do to fix this. They said their goodbyes and Ayana hung up, still shaken. She paced the room, her thoughts swirling. The company had been everything to her chance to rise above her past, her escape from the ghosts of rejection. If this sabotage went public, it could ruin everything. The next morning, she met Alexander in his office. His demeanor was calm, but Ayana could sense the weight of the situation. As they sat at the sleek, polished table, a sharp contrast to the chaos she felt inside, Alexander looked at her, his eyes scanning her face. We've gone through the books, he began. There's no mistake. Someone has been pulling funds, and the trail leads to your department. It's clear this is deliberate. Ayana felt her stomach churn. But why? Who would do this? We're still investigating, he replied. But Ayana, we might be looking at someone you've worked closely with. Her mind raced, her thoughts flashing to the finance team, the managers she'd trusted. She clenched her fists. Who could it be? You're saying I can't trust anyone here? Her voice was low, each word like a weight she couldn't shake. Alexander hesitated. I'm saying we need to look at everything. If you know something about any internal conflicts or if there's anyone who might have had an agenda, now would be the time to speak up. Ayana's mind went back to Ethan's family, to the days when they'd all been so eager to put her in her place. She hadn't thought about them in months, but now, the idea that they were involved, that felt like a slap in the face. She stood, pacing in front of the window, her thoughts racing. I don't know what to think, she muttered. This feels like a setup. Let's not jump to conclusions, Alexander said. We'll find out who's behind this, Ayana. But we need to keep a clear head. This could be more than just money. It could be something personal. She turned, meeting his gaze. I don't care if it's personal. I'll find out who's behind this. As the investigation progressed, the weight of the situation pressed down on Ayana. Each day the threat grew closer. The deeper they dug into the company's finances, the more Ayana realized that everything she had built could come crashing down. Then came the day that broke her. An anonymous email slipped into her inbox, outlining exactly what had happened. It wasn't just about money. It was about a deliberate effort to destroy her. The email didn't just contain financial data. It also revealed how Ethan's family had been involved, how their influence stretched into the business world, and how they had manipulated her to gain power. Her breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just sabotage, it was a revenge plot, a deeply personal vendetta aimed at destroying everything she had worked for. Ayana sat on the balcony, the cool breeze gently ruffling her hair as she gazed out at the city below. The skyline glittered under the setting sun, its golden hues reflecting the complex thoughts swirling in her mind. She had spent so many nights like this, reflecting on the path that had brought her here. The weight of the betrayal, the pain, the loss, everything seemed so distant now. Yet in the quiet stillness of the evening, Ayana couldn't help but wonder, what if I hadn't made that choice? What if I hadn't let go of the past? The sound of the door opening behind her broke the silence. She turned to see Alexander walking toward her, his expression as calm as ever, but his eyes betrayed the concern he felt. "You've been quiet lately," he said, sitting beside her without saying a word. There was no need to. His presence was a comfort that Ayana had grown to rely on more than she ever expected. "I've just been thinking," she replied, her voice soft, almost hesitant. "I keep looking back at everything I've been through, and I wonder if it's really possible to move on, to truly let go." Alexander didn't speak immediately, letting the question hang in the air. His hand gently brushed against hers, a simple, comforting gesture that grounded her. "You've already moved on," he said quietly. "You may not see it yet, but you're not the person you were when we first met. You've fought for everything you have. You've already won." Ayana's heart tightened at his words, not from sorrow, but from the unexpected tenderness that filled her chest. He's right. She had spent so much time fighting the ghosts of her past, struggling to hold on to the remnants of the woman she used to be, that she had forgotten to see how far she had come. "Do you think I'm ready for this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The vulnerability in her question was something she had never shared with anyone else. Alexander looked at her with such understanding that Ayana felt an overwhelming rush of emotion. "You're more than ready," he said. "It's not about being perfect. It's about being real, and you're as real as it gets." Ayana's gaze softened as she looked into his eyes. She had never known love could feel like this, like something deep, rooted in respect and trust, not based on need or fear. "I've spent so long afraid to love again," she admitted, the words spilling out before she could stop them. "Afraid of being hurt, afraid of needing someone else. But with you, it's different. You're not alone anymore," Alexander said gently, his hand cupping her cheek. "I'm here, and I'll always be here. You don't have to carry everything on your own." A lump formed in Ayana's throat as the weight of his words sank in. She had been carrying so much for so long, thinking she had to fight the world by herself. But Alexander's presence, his belief in her, was a reminder that she wasn't alone. Not anymore. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on the door. Carla entered, a mischievous grin on her face. "Well, well, well," she said, looking between Ayana and Alexander. "I leave you two alone for one night, and look what happens." Ayana smiled, her heart lightening. "It's not what you think," she said, laughing softly. Carla raised an eyebrow, clearly not convinced. "Uh-huh. Sure, I saw the way you were looking at each other. It's practically written all over your faces." "Enough teasing," Alexander said with a playful grin. "Ayana's been through enough. Let her breathe." Carla held up her hands in mock surrender. "I'm just saying, it's about time you two finally figured it out. You make a pretty good team." Ayana laughed again, the sound rich with a newfound freedom. For the first time in a long time, she felt light. The weight of her past, of Ethan and his family, seemed so insignificant now. She had built something far more important, a life of her own, one that was not defined by their rejection. "Thank you, Carla," Ayana said, her voice sincere, "for always being there." "Don't mention it," Carla replied with a wink. "Now you two need to get out of here. You've had enough heart-to-heart. Let's go grab some dinner. The night's still young." As the three of them left the apartment and headed for a nearby restaurant, Ayana's heart felt full in a way it never had before. The city around her seemed brighter, more vibrant, as if the darkness of her past had finally lifted. Dinner was lighthearted and filled with laughter. Carla, always the outspoken one, kept the conversation flowing, but Ayana couldn't shake the feeling that everything was finally falling into place. She had moved past the pain of betrayal. She had found something real. Later that night, after Carla had left, Ayana and Alexander stood outside the restaurant. The cool evening air brushed against their skin, but there was warmth between them, an unspoken bond that needed no words. "I've spent so many years hiding from love," Ayana said, her voice soft. "Afraid of what it might cost me. But now, I see that love isn't about losing yourself. It's about finding someone who helps you become more of who you already are. Alexander smiled, his hand reaching for hers. And you're already more than enough, Ayana. I'm just here to remind you of that. Her heart swelled with emotion as they walked side by side through the city streets. For the first time, Ayana felt truly at peace. She had been broken, shattered by the past, but she had rebuilt herself, piece by piece. And now she was ready to build something new with Alexander. The love she had longed for, the love she had feared, was finally hers. And this time she would hold on to it, not out of desperation, but because she had learned what it truly meant to love herself first. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey with Ayana. We hope her story of overcoming betrayal, finding true love, and embracing personal growth resonated with you. We'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you think Ayana's journey reflects our own struggles in life and love? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this chapter, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next part of Ayana's story. Stay tuned for more, and we can't wait to see you next time. Until then, take care and keep believing in your own journey.